Okie dokie. Did I remember to turn everything on? Oops, I forgot to turn the music on. There we go. Cool. Okay, looks like everything is working, hopefully. And it's Monday. It's not Monday. Oh my gosh. Anyways, I'm sick, so my brain's a little bit unfunctional. But it is Wednesday, March 22nd. And we're gonna do stuff. So the agenda is we're working on our MMO Slice. That's what we'll be working on during the live streams. The original plan was to get a basic setup with a dedicated server, but the problem is I've started researching on how to do a dedicated server, and dedicated servers to run properly actually need source code compiled and different build targets, blah, blah, blah. Basically, I'm going to have to do that offline to get a dedicated server running, which isn't a big deal, but it's a bit more than I expected just to get something running. Not a big deal, though. Regardless, Eldridge, I know you were having issues with the transition map, and I said I'd look into that. And I did look into it, and I had no issues. So I'm curious on what problem you had. For my basic setup here, for a transition, I have a map that I load into, which is nothing. I have a map I'm going to, so this is my destination. And then I have my transition map, which is just this, so you can actually see it's loaded up into it. The code I have set up inside my character is to simply call a server travel command from the client to the server, and then have the server execute my server travel command to my destination, my transition to map. Now, if I run this in Play an Editor, seriously, somehow I chose mobile preview, so that was not the goal. Let's try that again. Where did that end up at? Oh my gosh. Did that run at all? I did do mobile. I have no idea what happened. I did mobile preview and then disappeared. That was weird. Anyways, if we run this inside of the editor, server travel doesn't work. And that's to be expected because we're not running this on a server and we're running it Play an Editor. If I preview it as a standalone game, so in this case I'm running it now, and it's in a standalone, you'll notice I'm in my first map. I'll hit E, it loaded up the transition map, and it goes to my destination. So every time I hit E, instead of going directly to the destination, it loads my transition map up. That's that little orange map we're seeing, and then it goes to my destination. And we can see that's working because if we go into our game mode and we disable seamless travel, and we go ahead and run it again without seamless travel, you'll notice now when I hit E, it goes directly, it pauses, and it goes directly to our destination. There's no more seamless travel map. We're not using our transition map anymore. So I didn't have too much of an issue getting it to work once I realized I had to call the server travel command from the server and that it didn't work Play an Editor. I did also run it from a cooked build. So this is a built project, and you'll notice it works fine as well on a built project. So that worked for me. I don't know what exact issue you're having, and I'd love to know. So if you have any more information on what you may have been having issue-wise, feel free to let me know. I'll see if I can work on that some more. Lex, are you ever going to do tutorial on multiplayer game? The goal is to eventually get a full tutorial series out on a multiplayer game at some point, once I know networking well enough to confidently do that. We have been working on networking over the past couple weeks, so if you look at any of the recent live streams, you'll find our exploits into networking. You'll see how much fun we've had. And then the current project we're working on now is a networking project. It is going to be a small vertical slice of an MMO game. So we're going to work with client-server setup in Unreal for networking, and I'm going to work with Socket.io plugin to talk to a Node.js server, to talk to a Mongo database for persistency and stuff like that. Seamless travel. Seamless travel, So if we run this right here without seamless travel, and we are running, let's say, a networked game, and then I'm sitting here, I'm I've got, I'm sitting here on the server and I'm kicking back, and the server calls a server travel command. So right here, it kicks off everybody who's on the server and then reconnects them to the new server. So nothing persists. When you run a travel command without it being seamless, basically everybody disconnects and then reconnects to the new server and no data persists. If we run this with the seamless travel turned on, then what you're doing is you're setting up a transition map. And that transition map basically is intended for memory purposes and storage purposes. So when I hit the E button, the map I was in unloads, so it frees up all the memory. The transition map loads up, so we now are in a much smaller map memory-wise, and then the new map loads in the background. So that way we don't have, for example, we're not trying to load up 2 giant maps at the same time. We're just loading up a temporary transition map. At the same time, the controllers and our players that are connected, they never get disconnected. They get moved from the first map to our transition map, so our temporary staging area, and then they get moved again to our final map. So they persist from one map to the other. So their data stays. And there is another section. I don't know how well it works with blueprints, but you have other things you can do in C++, where you can actually start tagging things that will persist as well. See, seamless travel, it's possible to carry over actors from the current level to the new one. It's useful for things like inventory, players, etc. So you don't have to rebuild things. By default, these actors persist. So the game mode, player controllers on the server, player controllers locally, and then all controllers that have a player state. And then you can add more things to this with certain commands. I don't know if the commands are C++ only, or if they're console commands, but I do know there's a way to add persistency to other things as well. So that's what our seamless travel gives us. Yep, okay. So I think my server travel function was missing as well, the command line. Okay, so hopefully that helps Eldridge. Let's go ahead and, okay. Just to summarize what I was saying earlier. I basically need to re-download the latest 4.15 source build it up, connect it to my project, set up a server target, build out a dedicated server, and boom, I can have a dedicated server now set up for this project. I don't plan on doing that right now because it's going to take a while. It's 5 gigs of download plus some other work. Not really an issue for right now. Once we get it set up, it'll be fine. Then I'll be able to move it over to my VM and people can connect to it as we start doing progress. That really doesn't matter for now because we can we can fake a dedicated server, at least locally for now, while we start doing some functionality. Let's see. Does the travel GM with seamless travel need to be in the travel map or in the other maps? Well, by default, I don't know for sure, but by default, the game mode that I'm using is on the project settings right here, and I set up my default game mode to be my transition game mode. I honestly haven't used dedicated servers and networking enough to know how game modes work. For example, if you override it, what happens, that type of thing. I'm assuming if you override, it's going to, when the new map loads up, it's going to use the new game mode. So any other information is probably gone at that point because it is an override. I don't know for sure if that is something I'm going to figure out. That is what we are learning. I also seem to have lost my project. So yeah, I'm going to close down Visual Studio for now. I'm going to close down my source build for now. I'm going to try to figure out, okay, so this is what we're working on for the project. So my idea was to initially get a dedicated server up and running with some connectivity. So basically a generic playground map, throw in maybe a generic character with some movement components, and get some form of dedicated server running and connecting so we can start populating functionality. So that was my idea. Let's see if we can do something. So in the meantime, we have our third-person character. For now, we're going to go ahead and use our third-person character, our default third-person character. See, you know what? Crap, there's a lot of stuff here. Our third-person character is just, you know what? Let's see if we can implement. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. Let's do a new level. And I don't really want to do any modeling or any of that stuff. I want to see if I can implement some functionality into it right now. Let's go ahead and let's pretend that this is going to be, oh, we did not want that for our Z. This is going to be our base level. Let's run our player into here. Here we go. Okay, this is going to be our base startup level. We're going to go with that. That'll work. Let's start putting in some functionality. We're not going to do any functionality to the player until I set up the player. So let's see what we can implement today. UI stuff isn't a big deal. Maps. This stuff I don't want to do. Skills, player interaction, NPCs, monsters, props, inventory system, merchant system, items, quest. Man, there's like... This is the problem when you're actually working on something. There's so many things you could work on. Finding a starting point is always horrible. You know what? I know this sounds stupid, but this is really fun. This should be fun and simple. Let's do an NPC spawn point. Yeah, let's create a generic NPC, like a monster. Oh, monster. Do you want monster spawn point or NPCs? Let's do a monster spawn point. Let's create a generic monster and let's create a spawn point for the monster. Let's see if we could do that. I know, seems kind of backwards, but you know, why not? So let's see, what are we going to call this? Blueprints. And then we'll call this one functionality, maybe? Systems? It's called systems. So these are going to be the systems. Or helpers? Helpers. Let's call it helpers. That's what I'm going to call it. We'll call it helpers. These are going to be our helpers. Fix redirectors. There we go. So let's do a new blueprint. This is just going to be something in the world. And this will be a monster spawner. There we go. Okay, so first thing we want to do is set up a new scene component for the root, just so we get rid of our circle. We're going to add a billboard to this because it's just simply something that exists in our world so we can see it. And this is just going to be something we're going to plop into our world. We're going to give it some functionality and it's going to do stuff. And what we want to do is we're going to need to be able to define what is spawned and how often it spawns. So it's going to have to also keep track of if whatever it spawned is alive. So a good question on this one is, do you allow the spawner? Okay, so here's a question. Here's one of the first decisions I'm curious about. We have the ability to define our spawner in a 1-to-1 ratio. For example, if I want 10 mobs to spawn in this area, and roam, do I have 10 spawners? And each mob is tied to the respective spawn point. Or do we have a spawner that can have monsters, so an array of monsters, and it keeps track of them? So for example, if it can control 10 spawns, and then those spawns will be set up in an array. Whenever one of the monsters dies, it can tell its owner, its spawner, that it died, so that way the spawner can respawn something after an appropriate spawn time. So you end up going with something like a cluster of spawn points, because I'm thinking maybe doing that one. If anyone's ever played the original EverQuest, there's a lot of times, especially in like outside of Freeport, the human starting area, in the newbie area, where you knew where the spawn points were and you could watch them all spawn, and you could just watch groups of mobs all coming from the same point. Which is always funny on a server restart if you happen to be there and you can watch them all respawn at the same time. I don't know which one sounds better. I'm thinking of going, if we go with the one where it's universal, it will allow us to adjust it. So basically we can spawn one thing, or we can spawn sets of mobs. Let's try doing that. Let's see doing that. Let's see if we can do that. So let's see, what would we need? So we're gonna have a let's see, let's go with monsters. Yeah, and I'm gonna start tagging these things in terms of what it is for the name, just to make it easier on me. Yeah, there's Harry's bringing up some points, like we can spawn sets amounts of mobs, repopulate them. We could do a distribution function. Yeah, there's tons of stuff we could do, but we're not spending a lot of time doing anything fancy. It was just mainly a decision: one spawner per mob, or one spawner per group of mobs, with the ability, obviously, to spawn one mob. I think we're just going to go with something really simple like that. We need to define some form of a monster. So, let's go with monsters. We'll make a new folder called monsters. And we'll make a generic parent class. This is going to be a character. We're never going to control these, so a pawn would be appropriate, right? I always forget. Pawns work with AI, right? Man, do we need a... screw it. We'll go with the character. At the worst, it's overkill. Up to now, the blueprint is a character. I always forget. Okay, so... Now this is going to be a skeletal mesh, isn't it? So we'll just slap our little dude in there. Grab him, bring him back down, rotate him appropriately. Let's see, is he good or is he... Let's see. Yeah, that should be good. And let's give him a generic material monster base, just so we have something for now. I should not have done that. That was kind of silly. Would have been smarter to grab our character, who already has an existing material, grab his body, find his body, drag his body into our monsters here, copy it, and rename it. Material monster base. Since we don't have any stuff, we might as well at least have something usable here. Material instance. Create a material instance. We'll go ahead and color him in. Make him kind of that color, whatever that color is. There we go. And make it instance. Where'd he go? There we go. So our monsters at least will look different when they spawn in. We at least have something we can put into our array now for monsters. Where'd my helper go? There we go. Okay, cool. Yeah. I know character has more than pawn. I just always forget if a behavior tree runs properly on a pawn, or if I need a character to use a behavior tree. I literally forget every time. And so we're going to go with character just because it's probably the right choice, and hope it is. Let's see. So we're going to set this to our monster base for now. There we go. So now we can set up an array of monsters. So let's do something like... these are ones that are inside the scene, so that's not going to help. So this is going to keep track of our spawned monsters. So let's do that. And what would be an easy way to do this properly? We're going to have to define... Well, let's do a data table. So we're going to need to do a data table. So let's create a new folder called data tables. And this is going to define our monsters, which means we need a struct first. So we need a blueprint structure. And this will be our monsters struct. And, you know, we even though we have this design document right here with lots of information, we still have lots of stuff we have to figure out as we're going along. So that's the fun part about this. This at least helps because we know that, you know, once we do make our monsters, we're going to need to make sure our monsters have these things in it. We're going to know we need data tables of certain types. We know we're going to need an ID to identify the monster. Whether we're going to use it or not, I don't know. And we'll go with a name for our monster. And what else did we have? For sure. Should we define these things in here probably? Their stats, armor, damage, and loot table? Yeah, why not? So ID, name, we'll go with armor. Damage. Whoops, damage. Oh, I also remembered something else that would probably be helpful. Wait. Hold on a second. So this is their structure. These define our we're going to need the class that's actual monster. So we're going to need the monster class. That would be helpful. Character monster base, that needs to be a class, monster base class, which obviously you will choose something different if we created extra monsters. So our loot table is going to be an integer. No, it's a map, right? What do we determine? A map to an a map int float. So, can we do maps in here? Yeah, okay. Int float. There we go. So we have map int float. Damage is going to be... Do we want to define those as integers? Integers and integers, okay. Yep, just to make things easier. Integer and integer. Name is going to be string. ID is going to be integer. We'll go something like that. Let's set these at negative values so we know their default, just in case. There we go. So we're going to go with something like that. That should be our base form. Let's see. Doing tutorials for mobile games with touch. I can try to do that at some point. Unfortunately, I don't really have any devices set up with Unreal Engine for touch and such, so I wouldn't be able to do it for now. For the most part, though, if you are attempting to try to do something with touch on mobile games, you have your... let's put a new blueprint, player controller, third person player controller. Inside of your player controller, this is where you can enable and disable touch events. And you have touch over, touch events, things like that, click events. You can always set up your game to run off of mouse clicks. And then if you go into your project settings under input, you have use mouse for touch. So basically, mouse events will simulate touch events. So if you did use mouse for touch, and then you set your game up to work off of mouse events, any of your mouse events will fire when you do touch. Now, your biggest issue is this is pretty much only going to work out of the box for things like touching and tapping, things like that. If you need things such as swiping or dragging and things like that, those are a lot more work. They are not built in out of the box. The only thing I can think of offhand right now is there are some plugins in the marketplace. Other than that, you're looking at basically overwriting and keeping track of things. So such as the player touches the screen, you keep track of when they touched it, where they touched it. When the player moves, you keep track of where they're moving to, and you do all your custom code. Fortunately, there is supposed to be gesture support built in right now, but I can never seem to get it working right. So let's see. So let's see. Spawnable monsters. So here's going to be an array of spawnable monsters, and this is going to be a monster struct, which we don't need. I don't know why I did that. No, we don't need that. We just need numbers. This is just going to be integer. It's going to be an array of integers. There we go. So this is going to define our spawnable monsters. Nothing means nothing spawns. You know, if we want to spawn 5 monsters, 6 monsters, and there we go. Okay, cool. So that'll work. So these are spawnable monsters. These are monsters to spawn. Let's do a respawn time. And this one's going to be a float. And this will be the default respawn time. So after a monster gets killed, this timer will kick off for that exact monster itself. And I'm thinking we'll do a 1-to-1 ratio, since these are both arrays, to make things more trackable. For example, if we have 3 elements for spawnable monsters, when we spawn the first one, we're going to put it in slot 1. The second one's going to go in slot 2. The third one's going to go in slot 3. So that way, when something dies, we can remove it from the spawn monster slot. So that way, we'll know that one's missing. And then we are going to actually turn the respawn time into an array. And we'll just fill up our array with when things should be respawned. You know what? I'm gonna even make this even more fun. Aw, man, we can't do maps with bulls, right? Oh, that would have been so nice. No, I'm just gonna set it to -1 for the okay, cool. Yep, cool. Why not have a struct for what? What kind of a struct are we looking at here? Struct of respawn time and monster class. We could do that, I guess. I mean, there's lots of things we could do, but if I do a struct of a respawn time and a monster class, it's basically just these 2 items in a struct. So I'd have to create another struct for that. So I'd have to make a struct just for one thing specifically, where I could just have 2 arrays. Same result. No, I guess there's no reason not to do it either way, but this is the way I'm gonna do it. Okay, let's we were in the middle of a data table when I was making my struct. Okay, so let's make a data table. Let's find where the data tables are hiding. There we go. So this will be our monsters data table. Monsters data table. Let's see. Spawned monsters, yes, every time. Basically, once we get this working, we'll go through all of our spawnable monsters. We'll spawn a monster based on whatever's in here, plug it into spawn monsters. And then every so often, we'll check the respawn time thingy. This will loop through here and see if we need to respawn anything at any point in time. And if we do, once it hits 0 or less than, once it hits 0, we'll go ahead and respawn it, and then we'll switch this to something like -1. To indicate, or 9999 or -99, some ridiculously silly number to indicate that there's nothing respawning in that slot. Monsters data table. Whoa, this looks super duper weird. Apparently my data table spawned in with nothing. That was kind of trippy. Okay, let's do 2 basic monsters here, shall we? So we're gonna go with ID 0. 0. We're going to name this one our default monster. And this will be just like a dummy element, just in case something causes an issue. So 0 is going to be our dummy monster. Is what it's going to be. So number 1, we'll just call this a wolf, because wolves are standard in stuff. Wolf's going to have 2 armor and do 2 damage. I have no idea about these numbers, because we're not balancing anything, obviously. I don't have anything set up here, and I don't have anything set up here. So we'll have to clean those up. And obviously we don't have a class. Okay, so this one will be the wolf. We'll just call this one wolf, because it's a simple wolf. I also apparently have a map that I never saved. So let me save my map. This is going to be our world map. World map? Yeah, world map. Why not? Brad, sent you a message about an issue I'm running into. No, feel free to ask at any point in time. Let's see, where did you send me a message? Let's see if we can find that message, shall we? Community. Nope. Message. Oh, 3 minutes. Here we go. VR related. Found your shooting gallery super helpful. Make a working door in VR. Okay. Brad, to answer the question, I would love to do some more stuff on VR. Right now, I am currently in a transitional spot in my living condition, so I don't have any of my VR stuff set up. So unfortunately, I would not be able to do anything anytime soon VR related. I have a Vive, which means I have to have the full room set up for the VR stuff. If I happen to get a Rift at some point, I'm trying to work with Epic on getting one of those, I can probably set it up for desktop space, which means I would be able to do some more VR stuff. But for now, my office is basically not capable of using my Vive anymore. But I would love to do some more VR stuff. I'm hoping actually I can start doing some stuff on the new VR editor with Epic's permission. That's my goal. Let's do. Okay, so monsters. Let's make a new folder. Let's call this one Wolf. And we're going to create a child called Monster Wolf. Cool. We'll slap our wolf down into our wolf. And here's our wolf. Okie dokie. So our wolf right here is going to be of type wolf, so we're good there. We just the place I live at, the lease has run up. They are attempting to sell it, so in an attempt to make things easier, we've packed up a lot of stuff, and the office is basically a storage area now for stuff. So my computing area has moved into the bedroom, which means I have no place to actually set up any of the VR stuff. We're basically just ready to move out whenever they don't want us living here anymore. Trying to be prepared for once. Okay, cool. Loot table. We should probably define this at some point in time. And I also should put in... how did we define loot table? Number from our loot table and the percent to drop. So let's go with, well, we don't actually have a loot table defined, so that kind of needs to be done. Data tables. So let's see. Blueprint structure. Loot table struct. And this is going to be the ID. And, I literally don't remember the other. What was the other one? What's our loot table supposed to consist of? Well, I don't know. We haven't even defined loot, so that doesn't help. Let's see, loot table, and then I guess because this is supposed to be the loot table is supposed to be a ID, which technically we don't even need IDs. It's just I do it for sanity's sake, but it's supposed to be an ID, and it's supposed to be what can drop. So we haven't even defined items yet, so that doesn't help. So we'll just call ID and drop is all we're going to do for the loot table. See, this is the fun part. Well, not necessarily the fun part, but this is the amusing part. Because we have a document and we know what we're going to be working on here, I can already see, we have to see ahead on what we're doing, so we already know we have to basically create a bunch of stuff in the back end before we even get ahead. We need to define, this is what I was getting to, we need to define items. So, blueprint class, actor, BP, item. There we go. So I just wanted to do a blueprint in there called items, because we need to go back to our loot table, and we need to make a object class. Item. There we go. A base item and default -1. Okay. So now in theory, if we set up an item for like a wolf pelt, we have the ability to drop it. So we can go back to our data table. Loot table 0 is going to be a dummy. So we'll set up our wolf pet as 1, and we'll set it up as a 100% chance. And I'm going to go back to changing our document because I realized trying to do math with 0 to 1 is annoying. I'm just going to do 0 to 100%. Okay, so there we go. Loot table 1, 100%. We actually should probably define our loot table here at some point. So make a new data table. Blueprint, nope. Miscellaneous. Data table. Loot table. And this is going to be our loot table. Data table. I don't know why I used the word loot table instead of just loot, but I felt like it. And this thing keeps hiding. Huh. That's super annoying. We'll do 2 rows by default. 0 is going to be our dummy item. I realized I didn't put a name in here either. I wonder if I should put a name in here. Or if we're just going to link directly to the item itself. I guess technically it's not a big deal because we can use this as our name, right? Dummy. I guess that'll work. Wolf belt. Because this is our loot table, the item itself is going to hold all the information. Why not? Let's make a wolf pelt. So we're going to quest items. I'm going to make a new folder called quest items. Make a child of this. We'll call this one BP item wolf pelt. Let's header this with quest wolf pelt, because we might want to have a wolf pelt that is not a quest item. I also hit copy instead of move. Darn it. There we go. RM, we are working on making a basic networked, kind of like a multiplayer RPG game where it's really basic and simple. And today we're working on trying to get a monster spawned. But apparently it requires a lot of systems in place to do it. Because that's just the way programming is when you're making stuff. There's 90% back-end work and 10% fun. Item doesn't necessarily have to have... Item should technically have some things such as the... So we're going to have to change a couple... We're going to have to figure some stuff out here. Let me just try to get some stuff defined first. There we go. Okay, so in theory we've got... Okay, so in theory, at some point, I could define spawnable monsters as 1. I could spawn 3 wolves in theory. I don't know if they're going to do anything, but in theory, our spawner is now set up to hold 3 monsters. And then in theory, our monsters data table knows about a wolf, which should generate a wolf class, which does technically have a loot table of a wolf. I have no meshes set up. We have no icons set up. We have no names set up for half of this stuff. We have so many things in here. Let's see, Harry. I'm not sure items should be represented in blueprint necessary. I did think about that as well, which is kind of why I'm halfway between deciding on things, because the items themselves should constitute items that are usable. Our weapons, our swords, our armor, and stuff like that. So our items should physically exist either in the world or in our inventory in one way or another. So that's what I've actually been trying to figure out. If we put all the data inside of our item itself, we can determine based on the type of item, if it's, for example, a visual item or not. We can determine stuff, I guess is the way of saying it. I don't really know. I don't really know what I'm going to do yet. That's what I'm figuring out here. Yeah, that's what we're figuring out. But that brought up a good point, because our we don't have an item table. That's one thing I kind of realized. We don't have did we think about that at any point in time? Yeah, see, we don't have an item table anywhere at all. So we're going to need to create an item table, which I still need to do. But I want to see if we can get something working. That's kind of was the goal at this point in time. So we have our monster spawner, which is technically in our world right there. Okay, so let's see if we can get our monster spawner doing something. So we'll just hook it up to a begin play right now. Whoops, because that'll probably be the easiest thing to do. And all we should have to do here is we're going to loop through our spawnable monsters. and we're going to do something. So we're going to figure out, okay, we have this many monsters we can spawn. For every one of those, we are going to we're going to have to associate the array element with our data table for our monster table. So get data table row names. Get data table row. Here we go. This will be our monsters data table. And then we'll get data table row names like this. And yes, I know this seems weird, but I like doing it like this. We did discuss this before. Here we go. Array element like that. So this way I just have everything identified by the number. Then we grab that item, and this should give us back something. And then if we don't want to split, we're going to break this. The key here is it should give us back the class. That's what we care about. We care about the monster class because that's what we're going to spawn in. So we're going to spawn an actor from class right here. Now we already know where the root is of the monster spawner, so we can get the actor transform. And this is where we're going to spawn it in at. So we're going to spawn it basically where we are here. And we're going to go ahead and always spawn and ignore collisions just for debug purposes. So, I mean, in theory, something might happen. And there we go. We had something to happen. And there are 3 wolves here. Let's adjust this to try to adjust, but always spawn. And hit play again. And there we go. So our monster spawner worked. So if we have different monsters in here, we can easily set up our system. All we have to do now is expose that variable. That would probably be smarter. So spawnable monsters. Let's edit and expose on spawn. Let's make a tooltip. Which monsters to spawn from the monster data table. And then like that. So now our right here is our spawnable monsters. So if we only wanted, for example, 2 of them, now we can spawn 2 monsters. And of course, if we only wanted 1, we could spawn 1. I know, we did a lot of friggin' prep work just to get this working, but we got it working. That's what kind of counts. The nice thing is, because we're spawning a monster, if we were to go into our base class now, so we find our monsters, we find our monster base, and we'll go ahead and, I wish you could, like, Visual Studio snap things side to side inside of here would be kind of nice. We can transfer this information in. So we have ID, name, armor, damage. So for blueprint editor, we're going to put some variables in here. ID, name, armor, damage, and loot table. Whoops, I think I added one too many. Oh my gosh. Oh, come on, mouse. There we go. So we have the ID, we have the name, and we have the armor, and we have the damage, and we have the loot table. Let's see, so our ID is an integer, our name is a string, our armor is an integer, damage is an integer, and our loot table was a integer slash float map. Like that. Hello, Zelati, and hello, everyone else. So, now we do the really easy, cheesy thing of just simply editable expose, editable expose, editable expose, editable expose, and editable expose. We go back to our monster spawner. Oh, look, we have some nice things set up. Did I put them in the right order? I did. ID, name, armor, damage, loot table. All right. Wait, what are you complaining about? Failed building connection with integer is not compatible with map of integers to float. Interesting. Okay, that seems like there's possibly a bug in our system here. Well, that's not something I wanted to see. Let's see. We are working on the MMO Slice project right now, trying to get a monster spawner working. Vaso, this project will be shared. That is one of the goals of this one. The daily work should be shared once I get the repo set back up properly, and then the actual project will be shared as well. So this is a map of integers to floats, and this is a map of integers to floats. But apparently we cannot pass a... we can't pass it. Well, that's a bummer. Damn. So how do we work around that? So this is obviously a bug with our maps and floats that you cannot you can't pass in a map. No. Huh. So, I mean, I guess I could do an array of structs. I guess that's the next way of doing it. Well, I guess that's what we're doing. So where do I want to put that at? I guess under data tables. Well, that's a bummer. Maybe they'll fix that at some point. So this will be our... what did we call that? Loot table. That really doesn't help because I already have a loot table struct. Okay, so I'm gonna have to rename this to loot struct, and this will be my loot struct. See, I knew I named that improperly on purpose. Not on purpose, but I knew I named that improperly. Yeah, and then this will be our loot to table struct. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, I mean, I could iterate over, and I could even call a function on it. I wonder if I could call a function on it. Yeah, we're just gonna go with the struct for now. I don't want to spend a billion days trying to do stuff. That was kind of the goal here. We'll just do a loot struct in an array, and we'll pass that in. So our monster struct is going to have to be broken. This is going to be a array of loot tables. There we go. So that'll work. And this, did I make this a loot table? Nope, I did not. I made a loot struct. There we go. So we can go back to there, and then now we can pass it along. Not my best work, but it should work. Let's go to our data table and see if how much of that we broke. Yeah, that's what I figured. Whoop. Ooh, we've got, okay, crap. Crappity crap, crap, crap. Okay, let's, yeah, we got a problem here. Let's, because this changed in the middle of... Oh, crap. Okay, what did I do here? Oh, because it's not loot... Yeah, loot table. Okay, I've done something wrong here. Oh, probably because I never set up the stupid loot table. Son of a gun. My brain is not functional today. Okay, yeah. So just ignore me about the fact that that stuff didn't work. I'm sitting here having no clue what I'm doing. There we go. Let's try that. There we go. So now our... Oh wait, no, we don't want a default in there. Do we want a default? Yeah, this is our loot table for the monster. Duh. Yeah. Okay. Change that over to a struct kind of broke my brain right here. Let's see. How do you get how fast the flow is accelerating? You do know its value last time you checked it. And then Harry seems to be helping someone out. Yep. Okay, good. Harry's helping someone out. Okay, cool. So now when we run this, should be no visual difference, but our wolves themselves have data inside of them, and we can see it was passed over properly. Their names, their armor, their damage, their loot tables, and stuff like that. Cool. So I mean, we've got a spawning system set up now. Okay, I mean, we need a respawning system, which means I need a way to kill them, but I can do that. So so let's set up the respawning system. So how do we want to do this? We're gonna want a event dispatcher, and this will be monster killed. Yeah, I'll call it monster killed. Is what we're gonna call it. And we're gonna spawn this, and we're gonna bind event to. No, we're gonna assign. It'll make it easier. Assign monster. Oh, wait. Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. Do I have to go into the... Oh, come on, seriously. Alright, I didn't compile this, right? I'm trying to make sure that when the, yeah, see? I'm gonna have to call this from inside of the monster, aren't I? It's gonna have to get its parent. Am I gonna have to transfer that in? Am I gonna have to? Okay, so well, first of all, let's do this. We're gonna have to add set element. Bind event dispatchers is also the other thing that always bites me in the ass, like every single time. Okay, so here's our array index, reroute node. Drag this one over to here, reroute node, put it into here. So now we're gonna set, after we spawn it, we're gonna set our array element to the item that we just spawned so we can keep track of it. And that will be good there. My biggest issue now is when, so this is here, where's our monster? We're gonna need a new variable, or this is gonna be the monster spawner. So this is going to be the monster spawner that owns us. So, monster spawner. This will be a reference back to the monster spawner, because what we wanted to do is begin play. I'm going to grab the monster spawner, and we're going to assign event. Assign. Seriously, you're not going to cooperate with me? Seriously, I have a friggin' dispatcher right here. Oh, why are dispatchers not cooperating today? I'm setting a reference to self here. Okay, so yes, this I've actually completely lost myself because I'm being sick. My brain is not functioning at all at this point. I'm basically trying to assign. Okay, so destroy here. Let me override the function. Destroy. Where is it at? Destroyed. So this gets called when this item is destroyed. When this gets destroyed, I want to talk to the monster spawner, and I want to call the monster killed event. But I want it to do it without directly talking to it. I'd like it to do as an event dispatcher like it's supposed to do. It's just not doing it because it's being a giant pain in my ass. Yeah, assign. See, I'm not crazy. Yeah, okay. Assign on destroyed. Yeah, okay. I don't know why that wouldn't work earlier when I compiled it. Oh. Okay, you know what? Screw it. We're not using event dispatchers. You know, I'm just gonna kill this thing because it doesn't like me. So yeah, not using event dispatchers. Not even a problem. No problem. Custom event. Monster was destroyed. I don't think my brain is functioning well enough to work with event dispatchers right now, which is fine. We don't need them. We know who spawned us. We can call monster was destroyed on our parent, and we can let them know that we were just destroyed. And this should be called, if I'm right, event destroyed should be called still with a valid reference, right? Oh, crap. That's what I'm going to have to figure out here. Let's find out. Actor. Like that. Actor. Self. So basically, when this monster gets destroyed, it should tell whoever spawned it that it was destroyed. And then this thing should know which one it was, and it's going to go ahead and it's going to... so we're going to grab our spawned monsters, and we're going to get... No, find. We need to find item. We want to find this up. Of course, because it needs to be a monster base. So we're going to change this from actor to monster base. Because it's going to be a giant pain in my butt. Because you're just going to be a giant pain in my butt. There we go. Now this will give us the index, because that's what I care about right there. Yeah, see, I don't know for sure. Harry's bringing up when the destroyed event fires, it's already marked for deletion. That may be true, which is fine in this case. That's what I'm trying to figure out. We'll figure it out. I'm not really worried about it. Yeah, we're gonna play with it. That's the goal. We're just gonna play with it. And we set it to nothing. We grab our spawn monsters like that. Okay, so this should clear out the item out of our array. And well, let's see what happens. Let's see. I need to set up what? Let's do. Where's my character? We'll set up the E key. E key. Nope, still not gonna cooperate over here. E key, and then we're gonna do get cheat manager, and we're going to destroy targets like that, like that. Controller. Okay, let's throw some debugging in here. So we're gonna do print string. Let's see, called event destroyed. Copy this, go into our monster spawner, go into here, and we'll do called or finished event destroyed. Okay, let's see what happens. Go over here. Whoop! Apparently I targeted myself. This is the problem when you're doing third person. There we go. So both of them got called. Cool. So that's not an issue. Let's try this out a little bit. And let's see if anything actually gets passed along to us from here. So let's see if we have anything other than null. Go over here. E. Okay, so it looks like nothing got printed out. Let's verify this. this just to be safe. Back over here. Yep, okay. So nothing is getting passed, unfortunately. That's kind of what I had a feeling was going to happen, but I had to test it to be sure. Poopity poop poop. Oh. Yeah, why is this not hooked up? Okay, let's try that again with something actually hooked up this time. Okay, so, yeah. First of all, make sure it's working properly before you assume it's not working properly. So it does pass in the wolf. So that was fine. So that's wolf and that's wolf 1. Okay, so this does work properly. This is passing in the proper value. I can delete this. Did I delete too many things? No, okay, I was just deleting that. Okay, cool. Okay, cool. So this code here should function properly. What we want to do then is let's grab this array. We're going to grab the index of that one again. No, after we set it, it's not going to exist anymore, so that's not going to work. Yep, so let's do... No, that's not going to work. I was just trying to find an easy way of debugging. Oh, why? I don't know why I'm doing this like a dum-dum. Yeah, that would be me just being a dum-dum. I just forget about this stuff. Whoops, that would be me hitting the wrong button. So here's our monster spawner, and here is our arrays with our monsters. We go over here, we hit E, sets it to null. We go over here, hit E, sets it to null. That's what I was trying to debug, but I forgot you could just look at the inspector. So we are correctly, when they get destroyed, we are correctly clearing out our array. So that's good. Now we just need a way to... so that's cool. Our monster base is good. Our monster spawner is correctly updating our array. Now we just need to properly set up a timer. I don't think there's a way to... Well, hold on a second. I mean, technically we could do... Oops, not event. We could do this. There's no way to pass data into a timer. We could call like a respawn function after a certain amount of time, and then have it check the values, see if anything is less than or equal to, and then have it spawn. But then we'd have no way of stopping it, because technically we'd end up overriding if there's an existing one. Well, let's try it this way. Let's see what happens. The worst thing that's going to happen is we're going to get a really weird effect. Respawn monster. Let's see. Any problem with having lots of variables? The only problem I can see is if you don't organize them, it's going to be a giant pain in the butt to find them. If you've ever looked at the shooter game example, check out any of the weapons and look at how many variables are on the weapons of the shooter game project. Yeah, I would not worry about having 47 variables. Here, let's see if we can find... let's see if we can screenshot. Game project weapon variables. I don't have it set up, so I'm hoping maybe someone's got a screenshot of it in here. Of course not. We just have weapons. That doesn't help. Of course, I'm on Bing, so that doesn't help either. No, of course not. Someone couldn't just give me the answer. Oh, well, no, is this it? No, that's not it. Anyways, if you ever want to see, check out the shooter game project. Check out the weapons for the variables they have. They have 100, 200 variables just on weapons alone. Okay, so let's try this. Let me try something. Respawn monster. And we know for sure it's going to be called at a respawn time. And it's going to be based on the index. So we're going to grab this. You know what? I'm going to do... I'm trying to think of a smarter way of doing this. Oops. So like, for example, if we set a respawn time to 10 seconds, and we keep track of when the monster was killed, then if that time has passed, we can respawn the monster whenever we call this event. But, okay. So here's the scenario. This is where my brain is not functioning properly in terms of thinking of something happening. Let's say we have 5 monsters, and we have a 10-second respawn timer. Not a problem. We're good. 5 monsters roaming around the world. Someone kills 2 of the monsters, about 2 or 3 seconds apart. So we have a little bit of a delay. Somehow, in the most efficient manner, we want to make sure we only respawn the correct... Oh, okay. You know what? Screw it. Yeah, I think I have a better way of doing this. Okay, I think my brain is, I think we do, okay. Spawn monsters, let's change spawn monsters into a set. That's what we're going to change spawn monsters into. That's what we're going to do. Because we don't really need to keep track of the order if we use timers effectively. We're just going to keep track of all of our monsters that have spawned. And every monster should be unique, so that shouldn't be an issue. Okay, so we'll grab that. We'll grab our spawn monsters. We'll remove it from our set, like that. And then we'll just simply call a set timer by function based on that same monster type. So if we grab our spawn monster, and we get the class, oh, not the AI controller class, no, not that one, this one. We get the class that of the monster that we originally did, and then we need to, yeah, see, damn it, if there was only a way to set timers with the appropriate classes. I mean, I could do an array. Ah, crap. Hopefully everyone sees the problem here. Basically, I need to delay an action by a set amount of time, and that action, unfortunately, needs to also take in a value. That's going to be my class that I need to respawn. Let's... Okay, you know what? Let's try not using timers. Okay, let's try something else. We're going to go with a tick. We're going to go with a tick, not a rick. We're going to change the default of our class tick to 1 second. So that way, we're basically going to check every second if there's something we need to respawn. Respawn function, every time it fires, subtracts all values from 0 by a delta from cache value and spawns on monsters for which time is below 0. Yeah, that's kind of like what I'm thinking here. That's kind of like what I'm thinking. We'll just simply have a... checking every second won't be taxing at all. You have things checking 60 times a second if you're running 60 frames per second. Having a function fire off every second will be perfectly fine. See, I can fire the respawn function on a timer triggered by monster death, and that's fine. But the problem is, if I have 3 different monster deaths, am I going to have 3 different timers firing off? Okay, here's my death trigger right here. Cool. Now in 10 seconds, I need to respawn this monster. How do I let this know that this monster needs to be respawned in 10 seconds? This particular class of monster. And that's actually, yeah. So this begin play. So I need to change this. Initial spawn. This will no longer be begin play. This will be initial spawn. Just so these things are separated like that. There we go. You can't store anything on a timer, unfortunately. A timer itself is simply going to call a function without any other information. I mean, here, let's try calling this to monster respawn table. We'll change this over into we'll change this over into, I don't know if I can. Okay, cool. I can do a date time, and I can do can I do a class? Let's see, monster base class. Okay, cool. I can do that. So let's try this. We'll remove the spawn monster. We'll go ahead and add to our monster spawn table, add in the class we want to respawn, and then we'll add in the current date time. So we're going to go with now, and then we need to add date time plus a time span, make a time span. This is going to be respawn time. We'll just define respawn time as seconds. Why is respawn time a float? Ah, crap. We're going to want things to be equal, so let's do respawn time as whoops. I meant to do an integer. We'll just define this in seconds. There we go. Okay, so this should give us a new time, which we'll plug into here. Come on, there we go. And then we will go ahead and we'll do the set timer by function. So, whoops, not by handle, set timer by function. I mean, I guess it can't hurt to have, a couple different timers running. But see, no, they'd be delayed. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, how have I managed to type set timer multiple times and I keep coming up with the wrong one? Okay, so we'll get rid of our tick. Let's set our tick back to our default. We'll call this one respawn monster, and we'll go ahead and set it to be whatever our respawn time is, because at the minimum it's going to be that much for its respawn time. So we'll go with something like that, and then when the respawn timer fires off, we'll grab our table. We need to, where is it at? Keys for each. Yeah, we'll do something like this will probably work. This is kind of weird, but I think this will work. Hello, Quetzcop. So we'll loop through all the keys. These keys are going to be our times. So if the... we'll get now is what we need to do. So we'll go back to now. Now. And if now is greater than or equal to the input that we put in from there, then we're going to go ahead and tell it to spawn and remove based on the index. So there's our keys. We know our key is that time. Under index, can we get based on an index? You can't get based on an index from a map, right? It's just going to be a find and it contains. So we'll go with the contains. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. So if it's true, now this is why I needed to rename this up here, because we basically need to steal this code. This code. There we go. We need to steal this code, and this is probably where we'd want to put this into a function or a macro. Let's see. Let's look at this code. This is just going to loop through everything. This code itself is going to get an input, which is an ID, and then output stuff. Yeah. So let's go ahead and collapse that down to a function like that. And we can get rid of that. Put that here. This is going to be our spawn monster. There we go. So now we can call spawn monster with the correct ID down here. Like that. We're just going to need an actual ID. Which means it's going to be one of these spawnable monsters, which means we don't have the ID. Dagnabbit. You also need to do a breaking for each loop since it doesn't like the collection be changed in the loop body. Yeah, more than likely we will have to do something about that. But I'm more worried about this right now. So, I can remove a value by key or by index. No, I don't have a problem right now. I have no problem. Right now, I'm just trying to spawn in the monster with the correct index at this point. That's just my issue right now. And I don't have a reference to the correct one to spawn in. Because my respawn table has the class. So we don't want to respawn a class. We want to respawn an index. So that's what it is. So our monster respawn table actually doesn't need the class, it needs the ID. Is what it needs. Like that. So we are still, okay, so we get the actor, which is our character monster. We get the ID, since we already stuffed it in there. Pull out the ID. Add the date time. So now we know when and what is supposed to be respawned. We can go back into here and call our timer function. And then we broke down here. Yep, cool. And then this one we're going to grab the keys. Whoops. And this will give me all of my times. We'll loop through every single one of my times. Stop it. And we'll check and see if the time has elapsed. If the time has elapsed, we're going to go and spawn the monster, and then we'll remove it. And then we'll go from there. So we need the monster respawn table. So let's see, this is going to be the so we want to grab the respawn table and then get the not contains, right? Nope, dang it. Value. Right, nope. Find. There we go. Find this array element, give me the index, and then, whoops, not the index. Yeah, it gives me the value. Yep, okay, cool. Maps are so ugly sometimes. There we go. So this should give me the time. We'll loop through all the times. If the time has elapsed, we're going to go and run this code. This code is spawning a new monster. It's going to spawn the monster based on the element index we are using here. Our time, find, blah, blah, blah. And this shouldn't be an issue because all we have to do, and this is what I'm going to do to solve the, no, we don't want to loop after that. No, we should be able to just remove, right? Right from here. I don't know. Let's see how much, oh, crap. Yeah, because you should never modify a array or a collection or anything like that inside of a loop. So anything we spawned, we want to remove, but we want to remove it after we've already looped through here. Normally you would put it into a temporary array and then reassign. Which I guess we could technically do. Yeah, no, I'm not modifying the collection at all. I'm not going to touch it inside the loop, so I'm not even worried about that. Yeah. No, what we're going to do is we're going to just create a temporary, and this would be where it'd be useful to have this into a function. So we're going to put a new function. We call it respawn. Respawn monsters. Event graph. We're going to grab our stuff, pull it out, put it into here. We're going to create a new local variable. This will be the temp map. And then all we're going to do is grab our monster respawn table and grab our temp map and set our temp map to the monster respawn table like that. Then we loop through our temp map itself. No, not, yeah, we're looping through the monster respawn table, that's right. There we go. And then we are going to find our monster respawn table, that value, and then in here we grab our temp map, we create this, and we're going to remove from our temp map the item right here, bloop, like that. There we go. And then when we're done, set monster respawn table to the temp map, bloop, like that. There we go. That should resolve that issue if my brain was working functionally. Basically, we only make modifications to a temporary map. And then once we're done, we reset the temp map to we reset our monster respawn table to our temporary map. I think this will work. I guess we'll find out here shortly. This one should call my timer. My respawn monster timer should be called every time it needs to. Blah, 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 blah. Well, let's see what happens. I really don't know what's going to happen here. Seriously, let's find out. Go over here, hit E. Aw, didn't work. Okay, blah. Let's see, what didn't work? Destroy the target. Okay, check. The monster has the destroy event. Let's see if our destroy event was called. That would probably be smart. So let's double check that. Okay, cool. So our destroyed event was done. We'll go ahead and step. We're going to remove that monster from our array. Correct, it's done. We're going to go and add to our respawn table our new value, which is going to be a time plus the ID of 1. Okay, we're good there. Set the timer, respawn timer, 4 seconds. Let's go into our respawn monsters. Oh, did I... Oh, there we go. So my code is called respawn monsters, and this is called respawn monster. So there's an issue. So let's try resolving this again. Destroy that monster, see what happens. Oh, looks like it worked. In theory, we should get 2 monsters that pop up. Okay, let's give it a little bit of delay. Okay, they're coming back together really quickly. Okay, so the timer, I think the timer is being reset by the first one. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, pop. Yeah, so our timer event itself is being reset. So we can't have multiple timers with the same function name would be my guess. Let's double check on that one. Let's before I say something stupid here, let's make sure that this event is only being called once and not twice. I would expect it to be called now and then now, yeah. So there's an issue there. So we cannot, it doesn't look like we can use the timer based on the function name because it's going to, which makes sense. It's the way the timers work. We're basically calling the same thing again. And like it says, setting an existing timer will reset the timer with the updated parameters. There are ways around this. We could, for example, not reset the timer. It could do a simple check. It could see if a timer is running. If the timer is running, it will not update it. And then the next time it comes in to... Yeah, you know what? Let's do that. Let's see if we can make the timer stuff work. Here's what we're going to do. Because I think the timer stuff might be the best performance. So we're going to see about doing that. Let's see. So this is going to be our respawn timer. Then we're going to check and see if we have a respawn timer right now. And we're going to see if it's it's valid. Oh, can I have the other one, please? Oh, it's not going to give me the other one. Oh, well. I will say this much. If we had simply done this on the tick, it would have been so much easier just to check every tick for stuff that should respawn. But... I mean, maybe if we have 150,000 of these, we probably don't want to... I don't know, performance-wise. I guess we'll find out. False. Okay. So we're only going to want to set a timer if we have no current timer. So at this point, this should cause an issue. But our first one should respawn after 4 seconds. So 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000. Oh, I destroyed the ground. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000. Respawn. We have an issue where a second one doesn't respawn because we only have one timer running. And that's fine. Not an issue. The nice thing is if we call now in our respawn monsters code, we're basically going to make it semi-recursive. It's going to call it's going to basically set itself back up again. So we'll go back to here. We know that this is the code we want right here. Yep, this is the code we want right here. We just need to be able to change this time to the appropriate time. So if we go here, we'll go here, plug this in. In theory, as long as the, no, not there. We definitely do not want to plug it in at the end of there. Yeah, that's what I meant to do. In theory, because we're adding things to our respawn thing in the order that they come in, we can't guarantee the order, but there's a good chance... Oh, shit, we can't guarantee the order, can we? Maps technically don't guarantee order. I don't want to loop through these anyway. That's not a big deal. Get this keys. We'll grab the keys. We're going to grab the first key. This will give me a time. We're going to grab... let's see, break the date time. Oops, we don't want to break it. We're going to grab subtract date time. We're going to grab now. So we want now from this one. Yes, I know this seems really, really convoluted for what we're trying to do here, but a lot of math is like that. And then, whoops, and then this is a date time span, and then we need total seconds. And then plug the total seconds into there. Ooh, that was silly. But this should basically grab the item that is... What do you mean index? Can I not get 0? Oh, it would help if I hooked the node up, huh? Yeah, no one saw me do that. In theory, what this should do is after we've made our new respawn table, it should grab the first value that's still in there and go ahead and set up a new timer based on the amount of time that's left on that one. And hopefully someone noticed, and I just realized there's a huge issue here. If we have no keys in here, we probably don't want to redo this. So let's grab this, and let's grab the length. And let's make sure our length is greater than 0. Because if it's not, we really don't want to continue this. There we go. It's over here. If it's greater than 0, put in a key. Yep, cool, cool, cool. Set a respawn. Okay, cool. So let's see if our theory worked out. We'll hit E. We'll hit E. We'll get a respawn. And then hopefully we'll get another respawn. Oh, we don't get another respawn. The timers are getting cleared automatically when they get called. Your timer clears itself after it gets called. Okay, so let's see if we can figure out what we did wrong here. Let's see if one thing works fine. Okay, 1 works perfectly fine. Let's see if 1 works again. Okay, 1 does not work again. Obviously, we did break something. Let's see. You know what? No. The timer stops, but I'm not invalidating the timer. Nope, that's a good point there, old siren. I'm not actually invalidating the timer, is the problem. Which, because I'm doing a valid, is causing it to fail. No, that was a very good... yeah, the timer itself won't fire again because it's elapsed, but it will still count as valid. Okay, let's try this again. Stop. First of all, why is clear and invalidate? I keep clicking the wrong thing. There we go. Then it should come back. Let's try it again. Okay, cool. So there's our working. There's our next one. We should get someone popping back up, and then hopefully another one. Well, we resolved the original issue, but we still have another issue where we're not getting our things to come back. So I think this code's broken. Let's see. BJ's asking, can you make a system of the best time? You know, save the time when you finish the level. Well, what do you mean by saving the time when you finish the level? You can save that value out to a save game object and then compare it to the current time, and it should work perfectly fine. If you can give me a little more information by a system of best time, I can see if I can give you more information. I have a feeling this code is not working properly. Should trigger the first event. This should go through. It should. Let's see. This is the only one we've got left. It's going to grab its time. We're going to get 1 second. So in 1 second, it should call respawn monsters. Resume. What the hell? Did it work perfectly fine that time? Ah, okay. All of a sudden it's working. And then it's not. Seriously? Destroy a monster. Destroy a monster. Spawn a monster. And they'll spawn monsters. Seriously, I broke it. Okay. Oh, I know what's the problem here. Okay, I have a feeling I know what the problem is here. Yeah, okay. This is my thought process. So this should work. If we do it like this, this should work. Destroy this item. Wait a little bit. Destroy this item. It'll pause because I go into debug mode. I'll go ahead and skip and then resume, and then it should work properly. Okay. Now the reason for that, I have a feeling, is because here we're checking to see if the time has elapsed, but we're only doing that after a respawn time, so we kind of have a little bit of fudge room in there. It may not be exact. I don't think we're going to be able to run this on the timer. Because if we run this on the timer... Oh, shit. Crap. Because there's fudge... Okay. Wiggle room and stuff like that, I think, is causing our biggest problem right now. Basically, if I try to call a function after 1 second and it triggered at 1.1 seconds, it's going to fire off fine. But if I try to call it after 1 second and our timer happens to fire off at 9/10 of a second, it's not going to work, and then it's never going to get called again because of the fact that it failed. This is probably the reason why a lot of... I'm thinking back to like EverQuest, for example. They had a global tick of 6 seconds, which means things basically triggered on 6-second intervals. It's probably a good reason why it did that. So while I like our idea so far, I don't think our idea has merit because it's... Yeah, we're gonna have to go with some form of a tick. We'll have to give it some form of a... Oh, why don't we just... Oh. Aha, how about this? Okay, you know what? I've got an idea. Oops, that's an event dispatcher button. Let's give it a little bit of built-in wiggle room. Is what we're gonna do. Monster was respawned. We know that we should only be in here if a monster needs to be respawned. So what we're going to do is when it when it comes into here, we're going to set monster was respawned to false. That means we have not successfully respawned anything. If we successfully respawn a monster, we're going to go ahead and set this to true. If we get down to here at our endpoint And we find out that we still have something inside of our array, right here. And we find out that our... yeah, because I have a feeling this is getting set to a pastime is what's going on. So we're going to do this, and we're going to... This is what I'm going to do. We're going to do a select. Yeah, yep. I think I know what I'm doing here. This one's going to be Boolean, monster was respond. Yep. I think I can do this. I think this is the smart way to do this. Add float. We'll add 1 second to this. Here, let's see what happens. Okay. So my thought process is basically if it gets to this point and no monster was ever respawned. Oh, not true. These should be the opposite. Okay, stop. Disconnect. So this should be false and this should be true. Here we go. So if no monster was respawned, we're going to go ahead and take the next respawn timer and add a second to it so it'll recall itself automatically. As long as there's something. Okay, let's see what happens. I think there's just an issue with lag, basically, and time and stuff like that. Yeah, obviously that wasn't the answer. Dang it. Come on. There's got to be an intelligent reason why this is happening. Maths do not support replication as far as I know, unfortunately. Okay, you know what? Let's do good old print string debugging at this. Stop it. Print string debugging at this point in time. And we are going to simply debug the now value. Oh, it's not going to work, seriously. Can we do toText? Oh, we can't do now to anything, can we? I don't know. Let's see. Can we do it to anything? There's no conversions in here. Oh, there we go. That'll work. And then we'll do the value here. Like that. Okay. Did we decide we didn't want to do that? Oh, I only deleted one item, which means there wasn't another one to set up. So that was kind of silly. I also need to set this up like 15 seconds. Okay, 11:49 and 13, 11:49 and 11. 11:49 and 11 is the time that we currently have now, and 11:14, 30. Yeah, see, that should be 2 seconds, and then it should have recalled this thing in 2 seconds. So the timer was set properly. Yeah, 2 seconds. It's basically saying 2 seconds later, this timer should have fired off. Okay, so is my timer not firing off more than once? Well, let's try this. Let's find out. Let's do this really quickly. Yeah, it's not being called. It's not firing off again, is it? Respawn monsters. Why is my timer not being called again? Oh, after time. Okay, let's see what the time is being set to. Oh my god. Seriously? Oh. I bet you I'm doing some math backwards. Let's find out. Oh, I love this stuff. Let's see what I'm actually setting for the value for my timer. That would probably be smart. Negative. I'm setting it to negative seconds. Ah! Okay, so that would be a small issue. Apparently my math is really stupid here. We're grabbing now. Oh, it's supposed to be the future subtracting. Yeah, this is supposed to be like that. Oh, seriously? Did I really do that? .8 seconds. Oh my god, seriously? Ah! Oh, I just had bad math. I was trying to basically call a timer with a negative value, is what I was trying to do. Which, yeah, you can't do that. That's just silly. Oh, let's see. Lots of people chatting. Let me clean this code up after this giant mess here, and then I'll go over some chat and do some other stuff. This should never be an issue anymore, but I'll go ahead and just keep this code like this. But that should at least, this should be a safety check just in case there's an issue with the time. Let's double check and see if this worked. 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1000, click. 4, 1000, spawn. 1, 1000, 2, 1000, and spawn. Delete. Delete. We should get a spawn, and then we should get a spawn. Yep, okay, cool. So our respawn code works. I just don't know how to do basic math. Yeah. I'll stay in school, people. Trust me, it's worth it. Let's see. So someone was asking about the timer. Lex is asking about my machine. It's an i7 with a bunch of stuff in it. Is my PC specs. Let's see. Darkcraft. How do you change an image in a widget whenever you're looking at something that you can interact with? And that was one of the questions. And then, yeah, BJ asked about the timer. I'm pretty sure we did a high score one. Let me close down this project. Let's find our playground. Let's see if we can help. I thought we did a high score one already. High score, yeah. I already did I did an example video on a high score already. If you want to go back through the history, but high score basically would work the same as a best time. So you're asking about best time, right? Best time, yeah. So like in this case, you know, I grab a speed is way too fast on this character, apparently. I might want to fix that. Where's my character max speed? Oh yeah, just a bit too fast. Seriously. Whoa. Oh, I have it set up for, yeah, that would help if I switch this out of multiplayer. There we go. What happened to my game? Huh. Oh, my default game mode is probably, no, high score. Okay, now I'm confused. I broke my project. That's kind of cool. I did have this working. You guys did see that, right? Ah. That's interesting. Oh, it's probably, it's really because I had it set to launch as dedicated. Really? Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Even if you don't use multiplayer and you still launch as dedicated, it still has an issue. That's funny. Oh, and I don't have the game instance set up properly either. Because this is my evil stuff. Where's my game instance? High score game instance. There we go. Yeah, so like on this one, I have coins I can collect. I can go back to the main menu. It keeps track of the high score. We can start it again. And it will only propagate over the high score. So it's basically going to be the same thing for a timer, except instead of me keeping track of stuff in a score, it'll be keeping track of the time that I'm playing. So in my player, let's see, where's it at? I'm pretty sure it's my game mode. Yeah, in my game mode, I'm basically keeping track of the score. You could, for example, when your game mode starts, You could grab the current time and store it in a variable, and then when your level ends, you know how fast your time has been, and then you just store that over into like your game instance or a save game object. And then you just pull it back up and you do some comparisons. Check out the video I did on this one in regards to the high score. I can try to find it if you want. It's going to be one of the live stream archives, but it's basically going to be the same thing. Interactable stuff was asked about. But everyone pretty much has been helping out Darkcraft with the information. Doing line cast is how you can tell what something is. If we do, let me find, I have my line trace door example. We've covered this one in there before a couple times. I need to rename this one, but here, let me pull this example up and then we can go from there. Because this one technically, assuming this is the right project, I forget half the time if it's the right project. Yeah, so this is one where I did a bunch of different doors, and you'll notice when we walk up to this door, it tells me the keys required. And if I'm not, you know, and it can tell me mouse to open door, for example, but I have to be pointing at the door. So if we were to grab our character and we were to find our interaction event, which is gonna be in here somewhere. Oh, that's not our first person character. Where is this? Oh, it is the first person character, right? Did I edit the first person character or did I edit something else? No, I edited the first person character, okay. Of course, I literally have no idea where that code's at, so that's really helpful. Oh, here we go. Line trace, right here. So doing a line trace, you can determine what you hit with the line trace, and you can tell the actor that you hit. So if you grab the actor that you hit and you figure out what it is, you can figure out what image you want to show. What they were mentioning about interfaces is you can generically get information from something. So for example, let's say we have a door, for example, right there. Here, let's what's an easy way of doing this? Here, we'll try this. We'll do a blueprint interface, and we'll call this one interactable because that seems to be the name I use a lot. And this interface allows me to generically talk to stuff. And we'll call this new function getImage. And it's going to return back a texture 2D. Texture 2D. Texture 2D. For the love of Pete. There we go. And it's going to give me back a texture 2D. We'll go ahead and close the interactable interface. And anything I want to give me back something can implement that and it'll give me back something. So I can make a new blueprint and we'll call this one blueprint QB. And we'll make another blueprint and we'll call this one Apply. Just words I can't spell properly. And I'm just going to make it a little cube right there. And then we're going to grab our apple and we're going to make our apple. Keep in mind, these are just random things I'm throwing together for an example. He's an apple. There we go. So we have a cube and an apple. So we'll find somewhere in my map. Does that say preview? Yes, it does. Where's my light? Directional light. Movable. There we go. So light's fixed. So let's say we had an apple in our world right here and we had a cube in our world right here. Let's make sure we can see them. Okay, yeah, so we have a cube and an apple like that. No problem. We can go into our cube, and we can tell our cube it implements the interface interactable. We can tell our apple it implements the interface interactable. So both of these will know, both of these can implement that function we created, which was the get image, if we find that interface, which was the get image. So if I go to the cube, for example, and now since I've told it it's interactable, we can do get image, and this will be a function. Whoops, we got to compile. I always forget that. Always compile after you add in a blueprint interface. We can call the function get image. Seriously, you're not going to cooperate, are you? There we go. Nope. Custom event. Seriously. Oh, okay. So, yeah, this gets me every time too because I keep forgetting. When you do a interface and it has a return, it's not an event anymore. It's an interface down here. I always forget that because it has to have an output, which means it becomes a function. I always forget about that. So let's say on this one, we're going to have it return an image of fire, and we'll go to our apple, and it's going to return an image of ice. So we can close those, and technically those are done at this point in time. Now we have our little line trace here. Whenever I fire, my line trace fires off all this code right here. But for our example, what we're going to do is we're going to see our actor. We're going to ask our actor, does it implement the... Oh, I typed get, seriously? Does implement interface. Does it implement an interface? Does it have an interface as part of it? And does it have the interactable one? The one we just created. And if it does, we want it to do something. So we say, hey actor, I don't know what you are, but can we interact with you? And it's going to go yes or no. And if it does yes, then we're going to go, okay, well, since it's an interactable object, I'm going to ask it for its image. Because that is an event that the interactable ones have. This little icon says, yeah, I might have that. And then it's going to return back an image. And at that point, we can do whatever we want with that image. So, you know, set a UI element, set whatever we want. In this case, can we print out the name of it just to show it's working? We can't. There we go. Okay, so let's see if that worked. So if this works in theory, if it's working properly, which I don't think I have any collision turned on, so that's really not going to help. So let's find my items. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I don't have collision turned on properly for this stuff. So let's see, box, collision. Let's make sure it's set up properly. Let's try this again. Seriously, what am I firing out? My stupid character. What's he firing? Oh yeah, I'm also only tracing for doors, so that really doesn't help. Seriously. Man, okay, so I have this thing set up to only look for doors. That really doesn't help for what we're looking for right now. You know what? I can probably make my cube into a door, right? Where's my response channel? Oh, right here. Door. Yeah, it's already set up as door. And I have this set up to only work with doors, and of course we are having issues here. Because of the way I've set this up. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Fires. Check to see if it is object. See, it's an object type door. That's not going to work because I don't have this as an object door. Oh, wait, no, hold on. Custom door. Let's see if that fixes it. There we go. Cool. Let me fix that with my roundy one. Obviously, you won't have this issue if you were to actually properly set your stuff up. This is just the way I set mine up for my example. What do we got here? Let's go something like that. Set its collision up to door. All this collision stuff you can ignore. There we go. There we go. Fire and ice. Okay. So the point of this was basically we are hitting something with our line trace. That line trace could be run every tick, or it could be run, in my case, on my action event. So for your example, it would be on a tick. And every tick, you would just fire forward and see what you're hitting. And then you could say, okay, did we hit something? Yes. Grab the actor that we hit, and let's see if it's interactable. If it is interactable, well, let's ask it for its image. And then you saw in this case, when I asked the square for its image, it told me fire. When I asked the sphere for the image, it told me ice. So it's giving me back the image that I'm telling it. So all you'd have to do in that case, and I might as well do this because I like doing stuff like this. Widget blueprint, UI. We can easily grab an image. We're going to slap this in the bottom right, like that. Anchor to the bottom right. Reset that stuff. Size to content, -10, -10. Set our anchors to the bottom right like that. There we go. We have a little image there. We're going to call our image our, I don't know, interact image. Like that. Make it a variable. Okay, we're good there. Inside of our first person character, again, play. I've already got set up for this stuff. Let's go to steal some stuff over here. We're going to create a widget. So this is our UI that we've, this is your UI. Add it to the viewport and store it as a reference. Bloop. Like this. Now let's disconnect all this stuff just to make sure it's connected properly. Like that. Let's rename this. This is our UI reference. So obviously when we create our UI, we should get a widget on our screen. And this is not going to fire off because this is part of the stupid HMD. So I need to hook it up here. There we go. So see this little image? We have this right here. And I have a reference to it, the user interface. So if we find our code that we put here, rather than just printing the string, we're going to grab our UI. We're going to get the interact image. We're going to set a brush by texture. And it's going to ask me for a texture. And what do you know? We have a texture from the item we clicked on. We asked if it can interact. We asked it for its texture. We hit play. Now that little icon down there should change to that or that based on the item we clicked on. Now, if we wanted to, for example, change this from a fire to a tick, we can change this into a tick. We're going to run into a couple problems here. Not a big deal. You notice, first of all, we have crap shooting everywhere. So let's disable that. And there we go. And you'll notice now, depending on what I'm mousing over, it's either the skull, well, the little red dude, or that. Now you'll also notice, though, that it doesn't change to something else if I'm not looking at it. But that's not a big deal, because down here we have, did we hit anything? Or does it implement something? So you can always go here. This is our code right here. We can go, hey, if we didn't hit anything, let me move all this code down a little bit. Like that, so I got a little more room. Hey, we didn't hit anything. Can't stop it. Hey, we didn't hit anything. Let's go ahead and set up whatever our default texture is. So in that case, it was, well, it was blank. So let's go with the UE4 logo, because why not? So hey, we didn't hit anything. Let's go ahead and set up the UE4 logo. And I meant to not delete these, but unfortunately my brain decided to delete anyways. Cool. And down here, well, we hit something, so like a wall or a person, but it's not interactable. Well, we'll do the same thing. We'll go ahead and set our logo to nothing. So now when we run this, we should have the little UE4 logo on the, let's make that bigger. That is really, really small. 128, 128, oops, 128. There we go. So we have that UE4 logo on the bottom, and you can see it changes based on what I'm mousing over. So I'm hitting this wall or these buttons, but they're not interactable. So whenever I say, are you interactable? It goes no, and it shows that image down there. If we go over here, it shows that because that's the image I'm getting back from the sphere. We go off of it, goes back to nothing. Go to here, that's the image I get back from the cube. So every item that you want to get an image from simply needs to have that interface, our interactable interface, then implement the getImage function as part of our interface and return back whatever image you want. Performance-wise, there's still some things you should probably do. For example, we are technically setting this image every single tick, which is probably not very performant. We're also talking to something every single tick if we're moused over it. Optimization-wise, it would be more performant to keep track of what you hit and simply only change the image if it's changed. So, for example, you just grab the actor that you hit and store a reference to it somewhere and say, this is like my last hit actor. And then you simply check and see when you hit something else, is the last hit actor different than the current hit actor? And if it is, then ask the current one for its new image and then store the last hit actor as the one that you just hit. You're basically caching a reference to it. But hopefully Darkcraft, that at least helps out with some basics for what you're looking for. Interfaces, like this is basically a visual summary of what everyone's been trying to mention. Blueprint interfaces are a very powerful way. There are videos on it, and I've covered this a couple times with other people. But yeah, using a blueprint interface to easily ask anything for something is probably a really safe and easy way of doing this. The funny part about this, though, is technically you don't even need this part. Blueprint interfaces fail silently. So if you ask something to get its image using this interface, and that something doesn't have that interface, it's just going to ignore it. It won't actually fail out. But we're using this to determine if we're going to flop back and forth between the picture or the not picture. Yeah, so I'll just go over that one last time, and then I think we'll wrap up for the day. It looks like we're a little over 2 hours. But basically, to summarize, we have a blueprint interface. If I can figure out where I put it, which has a function, and that function simply says, hey, give me back an image, which is a texture 2D. Anything we want to give our image implements in the class settings that interface. So we added the BPI interactable, that's what I called it. And then the function that we added called getImage, I simply give it back whatever image I want. You can set it up in a variable or whatever. And then inside of my character, I simply do a line trace and say, hey, if we hit something, what are you? That's this right here. We hit something, grab the actor. Hey, do you interact with stuff? Do you implement the interactable interface? If true, let me grab the image from you, and I'm going to set my user interface to show the image. If you don't, well, I'm just going to set my user interface to the default. And then we also implement, for safety's sake, if we hit nothing, implement the generic image. Okay, so that's going to be it. That's going to wrap up today. Hopefully that helped with a couple people. Hopefully I helped Darkcraft with that, but hopefully some of the other people who had some questions got some help out. I'm happy with the progress we made on the Slice MMO today. I think we pretty much implemented some basic data types, and I think we pretty much implemented our monster spawn point completely. I think we got it working completely once I realized how to do basic math. Zelati's question is, how fast a float is accelerating so I can make my character lean forward when he starts running and backwards when he stops? Well, you have the velocity to determine how fast a character is moving. Can you use the velocity? Greebog, for the most part, you're too late. We've been streaming for about 2 hours. We're getting ready to wrap up. Feel free to ask a question. I can always try throwing it on the next stream. But Zelati, yeah, you can use the velocity of the character to determine their speed, to determine making your character leaning forward when he starts running and backwards when he stops. And then you can just store the differential? Delta. Store the delta between the two velocities. Let's see if we can... Let's see. Try to see if I had one in here somewhere. I don't think I do. But... let's see. This is something that's going to require a lot of math. It's something to keep in mind here. Let's see. And then save the current map. Open up the map, overwrite the game mode, test it, and we should have a velocity character. Okay, so there's our velocity character. And we'll get rid of all this extra crap that I always throw in there. We can do a bug string get self. I'll do negative 100. I think that might be the wrong way. Okay, yeah, that was below. I meant to do 100. I also need to get rid of that HUD for the FPS. There we go. Okay. So cool. I've got a number above me. Let's put that into a different color, like a red color. Okay, so every tick we can... So it just depends on how much you want to... how much lag you want, I guess. That's not the right way of putting it, but if we do a variable, and this is like the last velocity, and this will be a float, float or vector. Crap, I'm trying to remember the proper way of putting this information, because the velocity is based on the... Oh, this thing's also running too fast. The velocity is based on the direction you're running. And I always forget how to get the velocity on the direction you're running. Oh, crap. It's the... Oh, it's not going to get... Let's see. Get rotation. It's going to be it. Crap. Give me a second. Let's see. Get directional velocity. I figured this one out once, but this is math, so my brain never remembers how to do it. Split the vector, get the x and the y. Yeah, and I can do that, but the problem is if I just want the overall velocity regardless of direction. Oops, I'm trying to scroll inside of thing. Okay, let's see. Unrotate vector. Oh. Okay, let's see. Okay, so that's the node that tells me, or that set of nodes will give me velocity of the character. So I don't know how you're actually getting your how you're doing your input. I mean, the character itself, I'm using the velocity. I have no sliding, so that really doesn't help at all. But this value gives me my total velocity, and if you compare, so like here's our last velocity. Let's see, so this is going to be my current velocity right here. This is kind of where your problem comes in. Oops, I probably need a variable called current velocity. Smoothing. That was the word I was trying to think of earlier. It's smoothing your variable. Seriously, can I not set this? Thank you. There we go. So current velocity is like here, and then your last velocity is basically the velocity from the last frame. Okay, brain. Come on, brain. You can do this. Crap. Give my brain a second. Give me a second. Velocity delta. This is going to be the current velocity minus the last velocity. And that'll give you your delta. That's your difference between the two, which is fine. That's not really an issue. That's not really where my problem comes from. My problem comes from the fact that the brain doesn't want to set the last velocity properly. Oh, yeah, that's right. Set the current velocity. Set the last velocity to the current velocity. There we go. Okay. So this is right here. And see, the problem is with the way my character's running, it's so fast, the velocity changes. There's no smoothing is the issue here. Which might be fine for what you're doing. If we were to see, I'm not using a print. Let's try print string then instead. I could do the histogram as well. Yeah, I mean this what I'm doing here is what you're looking for in terms of the result. It's hard to show sometimes, unfortunately. Yeah, there we go. So I mean, you can see. Yeah. And yeah, you could use an f-interp. You can interpolate it over time. You can store values. For example, you could create a list of values or an array of values and then just smooth it out over time. There's lots of ways you could do it. But yeah, hopefully this is, you said it works, so hopefully something worked well. But yeah, you're basically going to store the last velocity as whatever it currently was the first time you came in. Figure out your new velocity, store it as current, get your delta between the two, and then that's your velocity delta. That's how much of a difference there was, whether it was more or less. And then you'll notice, of course, it eventually will stop depending on, if there's no change or not. And obviously, depending on your way your game's set up, you're going to have different values and pluses and minuses. But this was the code I was looking for right here. I grabbed it off of a Answer Hub post. Because your character, and the reason this works, in case anyone's wondering, your character, the X forward, is going to be the here we go, capsule component, which of course I can't. Anyways, the X forward on the character is going to be the not the X forward. The X is going to be the forward direction on a capsule component at all times. So that's why using this set of nodes here, we grab the velocity and then we get the rotation, and then this node gives us the values we want, which is kind of cool because I have no idea how that works. It's math. I just use the Answer Hub to figure it out. Okay, so hopefully that finishes up that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up for today. It's been a roller coaster of a stream. We streamed for 2 hours, 21 minutes. I appreciate everyone who hung in there. I'm happy with the progress on the MMO thingy. We got a basic system in place today. I'm going to spend tomorrow, while we are off stream, trying to get a dedicated server set up so we can actually start working on some of the server stuff back and forth, and that way people can join into a server and I can get builds working and things like that. I'm going to figure out how I want to do the players and the monsters and stuff like that in terms of a setup. That way we can actually get working on those. Other than that, that's going to be it again for today. You can watch the video on YouTube, Beam, or Twitch as a replay if you need to. I'll be streaming again on Friday, which is 2 days from now. It's roughly 2.5 hours before now, so around 10 o'clock Pacific is when I start streaming. Tomorrow is going to be a VR editor live stream for Epic, so don't forget to see that. Don't miss that. You can contact me on YouTube, the About channel in YouTube. My email address is in there. You can also get access to the blueprint list. I think I've covered everything. I'm feeling sicker than crap right now, but it's just too much fun working on this stuff with other people. I don't want to stop, but I need to stop. I think I'm gonna go sleep for like 10 hours. I had a good time. I appreciate everyone again hanging out. Everyone have a good rest of their day. We're going to go ahead and end this with about 30 seconds of silence so it doesn't look like I disappeared into the nether realm. Everyone have a good rest of their day.